It's 6 p.m. on a Monday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let us begin with the headlines. The Government 3.0 Expo is on in southern Seoul. It's all to help Koreans better understand the government's efforts to create smarter and more convenient public services designed with the people in mind. In his first address to Parliament since taking office, ruling Saenuri Party floor leader Chung Jin-seok urged passage of a group of controversial labor reform bills, highlighted the importance of closer coordination with the U.S. against North Korea, and touched on counter-terrorism efforts. Two drunk Vietnamese crewmen aboard a Korean deep-sea fishing vessel killed a South Korean captain and chief engineer while out in the Indian Ocean. Their motives are still unclear. Korea is hosting an expo featuring its tech-led Government 3.0 initiative, which is aimed at making public services more convenient. Adding to the celebrations, President Park Geun-hye was there to help kick things off. Song Ji-sun has our top story.
Government at your fingertips. That's the slogan for the Govt 3.0 Expo, held to better help the public understand how the initiative is implemented in their everyday lives. Communication and collaboration has been the key in launching the government's automated immigration system, a simplified annual tax return system, and one-stop services for inheritance matters and childbirth.
정부 3.0의 생활화에 정책의 초점을 맞추고 국민들께서 손끝만으로도 손쉽게 꼭 맞는 서비스를 찾을 수 있도록 정부의 모든 시스템과 제도 혁신을 가속화해 나갈 것입니다.
President Park also vowed smarter administration through cloud computing, Internet of Things, and big data, while allowing the public greater access to those resources.
국민들이 원하는 데이터를 집중 개방해서 일자리 창출과 창업 활성화를 적극 뒷받침하고 창조 경제가 풍성한 결실을 맺을 수 있도록 최선을 다해 지원할 것입니다.
President Park stressed that all innovation must be directed at making a nation where the people are happy, and vowed her administration will work towards catering customized services for each and every person. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Korea's Prime Minister Hwang is scheduled to make a trip to China this month, starting with a stop in Tianjin on Sunday for the start of the 2016 Summer Davos Forum. He is expected to attend a session on South Korea's response to the Fourth Industrial Revolution, during which he will introduce the country's flagship economic policies. Hwang will also meet with President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Keqiang, and he's expected to discuss North Korea issues, as well as illegal fishing by Chinese boats in South Korean waters. This visit will make Prime Minister Hwang the first high-ranking South Korean official to visit Liaoning province, a sensitive region near North Korea with many ethnic Korean residents. The Saenuri Party's floor leader briefed the parliament on his party's policy priorities on Monday. He advocated for labor reform, corporate restructuring, and a stronger alliance with the U.S. to guard against threats from North Korea. Kim Young-gil takes a look at Chung Jin-seok's speech.
Ruling Saenuri Party floor leader Chung Jin-seok took the floor Monday in his first parliamentary address since taking office earlier this month. He began by advocating for a passage of a package of 4 labor reform bills he said would prop up Korea's stagnant economy.
The 4 labor reform bills will help reduce wage imbalances and improve working conditions to thwart low productivity. We urge the opposition to cooperate for quick passage of the bills.
He said if passed, the bills will help provide young people and the elderly with job opportunities. The opposition parties and labor unions, however, believe the bills undermine job security and give employers too much leeway to hire irregular workers. Chung also called for corporate restructuring of ailing companies to improve their financial soundness and minimize the fallout if they fail. He said without drastic restructuring to cut costs, the Korean economy could be in danger. Apart from the economy-related issues, Chung says South Korea should strengthen the alliance with the U.S. to counter North Korea's nuclear ambitions.
The answer is strengthening and building a trust relationship through the South Korea-U.S. alliance. The U.S. should be ready to provide us with their nuclear umbrella at any time.
He also said his party supports Seoul's efforts to fully implement the UN sanctions on Pyongyang and keep up with international moves to impose additional sanctions on the North. Concerning the recent threats made by the Islamic State militant group against South Korea, Chung said the new counterterrorism center under the Prime Minister's office will act as a control tower against terrorist threats. He said the center will conduct around-the-clock surveillance on potential threats and set up contingency plans. Chung's address is part of a series of briefings scheduled for this week. The leaders of the two main opposition parties will outline their priorities in separate addresses on Tuesday and Wednesday. Kim Young-git, Arirang News.
2 Koreans were killed on a Korean deep-sea fishing vessel operating in the Indian Ocean near the coast of Seychelles, located east of the African mainland. According to the Korean Coast Guard, on Monday, 2 Vietnamese sailors on board the Hwang 803 who were intoxicated killed the captain and the ship's chief engineer at around 2 a.m. Korea time. The motive for the killing is unclear. The 2 suspects were subdued and detained by the other 14 sailors on the vessel. The ship is currently en route to the Seychelles capital of Victoria and is scheduled to arrive in about 4 days. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said it will consult with the Ethiopian embassy in Korea about conducting an on-site investigation into the incident and further judicial proceedings. Seoul's defense ministry is unfazed by Pyongyang's criticism of its crackdown in illegal fishing in the neutral waters around the Hangang River estuary. The operation continues. Kim Yeon-bin brings us this report.
South Korea's defense ministry said Monday that the operation in the Hangang River estuary does not break any laws and abides by the armistice agreement that brought an end to the hostilities in the Korean War. It also said the military is ready to counter any threats or provocations from North Korea in the West Sea.
Our operation is not a military provocation as North Korea claims, and our military is fully prepared for any provocations from the North.
Earlier in the day, North state-run Korean Central News Agency called the operation a military provocation and warned the missions could spark an artillery attack like the 2010 shelling of Yeonpyeong-do Island. The agency added that North Korea had previously warned South Korea and the U.S. that any intrusion into its land, air, or sea would be punished. It was the first response by North Korea since South Korea and the UN command began their crackdown earlier this month. The UN command regulates the neutral zone and authorized the operation. A growing number of fishing boats from China has trespassed into the military buffer zone in recent years, especially in June, the peak season for blue crabs. Kim Yeon-bin, Arirang News.
The world is gradually shifting from coal to renewable energy sources. According to BP's statistical review of world energy, global coal consumption fell by 1.8% in 2014 from the year before. That's well below the 10-year average annual growth of 2.1%. Coal consumption among OECD countries dipped below 1,000 tons for the first time in 33 years in 2015 and saw a 12.2% decline from 2010. Over in the U.S., that number has dropped by 24.5% since 2010, while the figure for European countries was between 9 and 45%. In stark contrast, South Korea and China both saw their coal consumption rise by over 10% during the 5-year period, while India used up 40% more during the said period. We're learning the ultrafine dust plaguing Korea originates from both at home and abroad. The findings go against the Korean government's assertion that the pollution comes solely from China. Shin Se-min has more on the rude awakening.
Men and women, young and old, line up for checkups. It's an increasingly common sight in pulmonology wards across Korea, given the worsening air quality around the nation.
The number of patients with respiratory diseases has surged in recent weeks and months, and many more come after a period of bad air quality. Most of the patients we see are elderly.
A study by the Korea Environment Institute found that the number of inpatients with respiratory diseases rises more than 1% on days of elevated fine dust levels. Ultrafine dust, particles smaller than 2.5 micrometers or PM 2.5, can also cause heart disease, strokes, and lung cancer. And a recent study shows that this particle-laden smog, if not curbed, could result in premature deaths of up to 2,800 per year by 2021. International experts categorize fine dust as a first-degree carcinogen. A joint study by Greenpeace and Harvard University found 30 to 50% of the smog in Korea is due to China's industrialization and the resulting fine dust and yellow sand. The rest comes from Korea. Studies show Korea's 53 coal power plants and 20 million vehicles contribute heavily to the problem. For one, that thick layer of smog in Seoul largely comes from Korea's west coast, where half of the nation's coal plants are concentrated. Korea's Environment Ministry has announced special measures to curb levels of fine dust, calling for a reduction in the number of old coal-fired power plants and diesel cars. But Korea, the world's fourth largest coal importer, has pledged to build a dozen more by 2021, with 11 already under construction. Nitrogen oxides, a contributor to lung-damaging ozone and fine dust from vehicles, accounts for around a third of the pollution in Korea.
Outdoor incinerators, oil refineries and painting facilities all contribute to air pollution. It's just that there's no definitive measurement to determine the level of danger just yet.
Experts are urging the government to grasp the causes of the air pollution and come up with carefully considered response measures. It may include relying less on coal and looking into renewable energy sources, while taking steps to encourage people to leave their cars at home. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
3 years have passed since Korea enacted an act to ensure the growing number of refugees in the country are protected. However, it's still not clear whether the law is actually playing a role in helping these refugees get by in their day-to-day lives. Lee Min-young explains further.
More than 5,000 refugees have sought asylum in Korea as the end of 2015, a nearly twofold annual increase from 2 years before. Last December, 4 families from Myanmar, or 22 refugees in all, were added to the group. It was the first time Korea had accepted refugees recommended by the UN Refugee Agency in accordance with Korea's Refugee Act. In July 2013, South Korea became the first Asian country to enforce the Independent Refugee Act to guarantee the minimum level of humanitarian protection for refugees in Korea. Almost 3 years have passed since the act came into effect, but still, much more remains to be done. The law ensures asylum seekers receive benefits such as monthly living expenses, government housing, and a special visa so they can work while their claims are being processed. However, some refugees aren't happy, saying there's a disconnect between what's in the law and reality.
I did not get recognized yet, and it's almost 5 years for me. And I know people staying for 7 years, 8 years. And that's really painful for a refugee to get through all this process.
Even after obtaining refugee status, most discover that finding a secure job isn't easy.
As they have G-1 visa, which is really strange and new to the many employers, they are very hesitant to have a work contract with the refugee applicants.
As a result, many refugees are reaching out to civic groups instead of the government for help.
They help me also for a few stuffs of life, like rice. They have to give me sometimes some small transportation fee if I have to move.
Experts agree the Refugee Act is not a quick fix, and there's certainly room for improvement.
In future, what UNHCR would like to see is bringing government and civil society closer in actually doing this work jointly, as much as it is done, or very much as it is done in other developed countries.
Aware of the problems, the Ministry of Justice is mapping out plans to do better, including a plan to triple the funds for refugees' living expenses from the amount 2 years ago. Lee Min-young, Arirang News.
We now shift our focus to the UK. Campaigning resumes for the EU referendum, the first opinion polls on the Brexit vote since the killing of pro-EU politician Jo Cox suggest the Remain campaign is pulling back into the lead. For details, let's turn to our Kim Mo-gyun.
The campaign to decide Britain's membership of the European Union resumed on Sunday after a 3-day hiatus following the murder of Labour Party MP Jo Cox on Thursday. With the latest incident, polls suggest people in Britain are leaning towards staying in the European Union. According to a telephone survey conducted on Friday and Saturday by market research firm Survation, 45% of respondents said they wanted Britain to stay in the EU. 42% said they wanted to leave. This is a turnaround from the results of the firm's previous poll released a day before Cox's death. An online survey held by research firm Govt on Thursday and Friday also revealed 44% wanted to remain and 43% wanted to leave. The results also swung from YouGov's poll held last Monday, when the figure for those who supported Brexit was 7 percentage points higher. Government officials from the Leave campaign were out in full force urging people to vote for a better future outside of the European Union.
My view is that those challenges will be easier to meet, those risks will be less if we vote to leave, because we will have control of the economic levers. We'll have control over money that we currently send to the European Union. We'll have control over our own laws.
The British Prime Minister admitted there are issues with immigration, but said Britain must remain in the EU for a brighter future.
What I'd say very frankly is that there are good ways of controlling immigration, and these welfare changes, I think, are good ways. There are bad ways of controlling immigration, and that, I think, would be leaving the single market, damaging our economy, costing jobs, and hurting British working families in the process.
Worldwide attention is focused on which way Britain votes on Thursday, as regardless of the decision, it would have big implications for the future of the EU. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
That's all from us at this hour. Do tune in for more at 10 p.m. Korea time. For now, thanks for watching.